Okay, I introduce Mr. Hollie.
For the presentation?
Yeah. Can we bring up the PowerPoint presentation, please?
Okay.
There we go.
If I stumble on the presentation, just try to work this thing. All right, so anyway, again, my name is Derrick Hollie. I'm the president of Reaching America. Reaching America, is my organization, and we address complex social issues that are impacting the African American community. And as I tell people, we're focused on solutions not based on right or left-wing views, but what makes sense for a more united America. And I say it that way because oftentimes the audience that I'm speaking to, the last thing they want to hear about is being conservative or energy. And they'd be like, oh my God, Derrick, you're drinking the Trump Kool-Aid. Well, yeah, I take a couple of sips, you know. I have to spit it out sometimes, but for the most part, I do drink it. But when you start talking about energy, again, we have to start our message in a way that, again, we have an opportunity to reach people before they completely shut down. And some of the issues that we address is education, criminal justice reform, free speech, occupational licensing, and energy poverty. And how I got into why I'm so passionate, if you will, about energy and energy poverty, just some background. When I first graduated from college, I worked for Norfolk Southern Railways as a brakeman. And I was literally out on the railroad, tying up the cars. I know the signals, I can hook up the cars and all that kind of stuff. But I worked at the Norfolk Terminal down in Norfolk, Virginia, Lambert's Point, and our job and responsibility was loading coal ships that transported coal all around the world. So I've oftentimes asked myself the question, if our natural resources are good enough for other countries, why is it not good enough for us right here at home? In addition to that, my grandfather was a black coal miner in Southwest Virginia. So now when I start speaking about coal, fossil fuels, energy, it's personal, and I humanize the message. What is energy poverty? Energy poverty exists when low-income families or individuals spend upwards, some people throw that number around, but we say 30% of their total income on their electric bill. And when that happens, oftentimes it puts people in a very, very difficult situation, having to make tough choices like, do I eat today or do I pay my electric bill? I can't get this prescription filled today because I have to pay the electric bill. And so, and when I meet with people and that kind of thing, many of them are struggling, but they don't realize that their struggles are oftentimes coming from having to pay these high electric and utility bills. And so I want to play a spot, hopefully this works. I don't think it's going to play. Is there volume?
Can you click on the mic, the speaker?
Where's
You may ask. Hi, I'm Derrick Hollie, president of Reaching America. Did you know that African Americans suffer disproportionately from energy poverty here in the United States? What is energy poverty, you may ask? Energy poverty exists when a low-income family or individual spends up to 30% of their income on utilities. It breaks my heart to think of a single mother who has to decide on feeding her kids or paying the energy bill. Specifically here in Atlanta, a high proportion of low-income families already pay more than $200 a month for their electricity, and we need to fix this. In America, we have an abundance of energy, and many of us take for granted that we can simply turn on the lights and keep our homes warm in the winter and cool in the summer. We have the natural resources from fossil fuels, including natural gas, and the technology to access these resources, all while reducing U.S. air pollution that provides affordable, reliable energy right here at home. Join Reaching America in our modern-day movement to address social issues impacting the African American community at reachingamerica.org.
Paid for by Reaching America.
So we run that spot as part of what we do to educate people on energy poverty and what it is. And so we ran that spot in several markets. We ran it in Richmond, we ran it in Atlanta, Georgia, a couple places in Florida, and again in Virginia. And so what we do when we run that spot, we'll partner with a radio station, and we do polling. And oftentimes when we do the poll, we ask 4 questions when we do this poll. We do the poll on site and before the radio spots air, and then we do the poll after the radio spots air to see if we had some impact. And the questions that we ask, really, really simple questions. First one, yes or no. Are fossil fuels good for America? Well, obviously, we believe yes. Oftentimes when I talk to people, they don't think so. Second question is, over 45% of our energy produced comes from alternative sources, solar, wind, and water. Well, that's false. The third question, electric vehicles can help low-income families save money. True or false? And then the fourth question is, what's the most affordable way to lower the cost of energy? Install solar panels on everyone's house, increase the production of fossil fuels, provide tax credits for electric vehicles, or D, power from wind can help improve people's electric costs. We'll obviously produce more fossil fuels as the answer. So what we achieve when we're addressing energy poverty in the community, we do things like events. And I think I have one of the events, I put these in order because I want to speak about each one because each one is different. The first one was about 500 people at this music conference. And we're like, okay, what you doing at a music conference? Well, the conference was our position was how fossil fuels powers the music industry. So, okay, and it was a conference of about 500 people, 600 people, and they were aspiring artists. So it was like, okay, it was a tough crowd. And we knew if we could deliver this message there, we could take this message anywhere. And so they stopped the music, and the four of us got up on stage. It was a panel. It was myself and one of the guys who runs a studio in Miami. The studio operates 24/7. As a matter of fact, Pharrell, the song Happy, 'Cause We're Happy, okay, he recorded that song at that studio. Well, the amount of, that song was streamed over 1 billion times. The amount of energy that it takes to stream that song 1 billion times is enough to power a refrigerator in every household in America for an entire year. So when you start throwing those kind of things out to people, they're like, wow. And so we have that kind of energy. We have access to that kind of energy right here in the United States. But most of the times, people don't hear that story. And so we share those kinds of things. We also talked about you as aspiring artists, when you make it to the big leagues and you perform at Dallas, Texas Stadium, well, at full capacity, that stadium is enough to power an entire country, a small country. Again, we have access to that kind of energy, but we just need to roll back the regulations that will allow us to get to that. So the second conference was a transformation expo. About 5,000 people were there. I was able to go out on the stage and deliver our message. And because my background has been in advertising, I have some great relationships with a lot of the radio stations. So they strategically placed me, in between two major acts, so I had the full audience and 5,000 people to deliver this message about energy poverty. And so when I start talking about energy poverty, reducing the cost of people's electric bills, that conference was the first time I literally got a standing ovation because people were like, I just never knew this information existed. And so I was like, wow, I was blown away because, again, people, the left, liberals, they drill this message in people's head and they don't really hear how we can really reduce the cost of energy for people by producing more fossil fuels and increasing our energy output here in America. The third event was a women's empowerment conference expo in Raleigh, North Carolina. Now this was 15,000 people, and they wouldn't give me 15 minutes on the stage in front of 15,000 people, so we had to get creative and strategic in how we delivered our message. So what we did with there was I addressed the crowd, talked about reaching America and who we are and what we do, but then after that, we got up on the stage, we were like, how would you like to learn how to reduce the cost of your energy bill? And so meet us in this room 200, and we're gonna pay your electric bill. And so, right, we're gonna pay your electric bill. As you know, we had a room full of people now. And so when we got there, for taking our survey and our poll, you got entered into the contest of winning. And so we gave $150 away for someone's electric bill, $100 for someone's internet bill, and a $50 gas card for the person who drove the furthest away. So now we're incorporating all aspects of energy and how it impacts people's lives into our message. And now they're like, wow, I never thought about it that way. And so, again, we do the public opinion polls, panel discussion, town hall forums, the radio stations are involved, and a Reaching America podcast that I host weekly, where we address energy poverty and other issues that we deal with. The solution to energy poverty, I think it's very simple but difficult, obviously, but better energy policy that includes increasing the production of fossil fuels will lead to lower energy cost. Offshore energy exploration, the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, and improved coal technology. Interesting enough, prior to coming here, I had the opportunity to go over and visit One Shell Plaza this morning and to see the bridge and the operations onshore that operate offshore. And it was just amazing to see. And it was good for me to see it because I get a better understanding of how all this works. So now when I'm out telling my story and telling people why they need to take a look at their elected officials and see which side of the aisle or what side they are, what their position is on energy. And that's what I tell them. I don't tell them who to vote for, but just do your own due diligence. Check out this elected official and see where he is. And oftentimes, I have these sidebar conversations with people, little old ladies, and they're like, so are you telling me that I need to vote Republican? Look, I'm not telling you that. But if that's where your elected official, if that's his position, then that's who you need to vote for. Take out this white, black, Democrat, Republican thing and vote what makes sense. What makes sense for you and your household. And so the message works. And literally, when we do these polls, those 4 questions, we flip the entire room. There may be like, if there was 400 people in the room, there may be like 10 people who do not change their views. And those are just jackass, they're not gonna believe it or whatever. Okay, they're just not gonna believe it. So that's okay, but if I can get 85, 90% of my people to change, then I think we've done what we're supposed to do. And so I know that once they hear the message and what we talk about, it makes sense to them. Again, it's never been presented that way. So it's just having the ability and the access to all these people, and that's what we're trying to do right now. So again, the solution to energy poverty, and then the other thing that I nail home is fossil fuels. As you know, it makes up 80% of our U.S. fuel mix. It was that way since the turn of the century, the early 1900s. It was that way when my grandfather was a coal miner in the 1950s and the 60s. And according to even the last administration, EPA Director Gina McCarthy, it's going to be that way through 2050. So again, why are we playing games with people's lives, when we have access and we have these opportunities? So I wanted to play this last spot, if I could. The impact, obviously.
I'm Derrick Hollie, President of Reaching America. Today we use more energy in our country than ever, but too many people in North Carolina struggle to pay the rising cost. Fortunately, there's an opportunity to reduce the cost of energy and increase funding in the state by developing our country's offshore energy resources. Revenues from this development can help pay for schools and bring thousands of high-paying jobs to the state. It's time to consider the opportunities for our families and our community that come with energy development.
Paid for by Reaching America. Follow on social media at Reaching America.
So the impact, again, boost the struggling economy. I had the opportunity, I'm originally from Norfolk, Virginia, and I had the opportunity to go home a couple of weeks ago. And when I go home now, I'm looking at things just from a different perspective. It was just to go home and visit family, but now I'm just looking at it economically. And so the area had changed a lot, but it hadn't changed a lot. It hadn't changed for a lot of people. And, the economy is struggling. And it's that way in North Carolina, it's that way in Virginia, it's that way in South Carolina. And offshore could actually create some of these jobs to bring some of this economic resources back to these people, back to these places. Create high-paying jobs. I worked at Norfolk Southern. Norfolk Southern, they're not even booming the way they were years ago when I was there. So those opportunities don't exist. And create those opportunities and obviously lower the energy costs for a lot of people if we can, again, roll back some of these regulations that continue to plague us as we try to develop our energy sources here in the United States. So that's my presentation. You can follow us, like us on all these different media and social media platforms. Thank you.